Welcome back to In Pursuit of Magic, where we explore the things that inspire us, how we connect with others, and the magic we find on the way. I'm Matthew Medina, and today's very special guest is someone I'm very excited to introduce. She's an actress and singer-songwriter whose impressive credits include Gloria Stefan in On Your Feet, Vanessa in the Heights, Rapunzel and Into the Woods, and much more. As a songwriter, her lyrics have been featured in the off-Broadway musical A Never-Ending Line. It's a very big honor to welcome Marina Pires.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, it's exciting to have you here. You had just performed with Jaime Lozano and La Familia, and that was an incredible concert, big deal. So, yeah, it's great to kind of explore your journey and where you got your start and how you ended up where you're at now and where you're going. So, tell me a little bit about what were your earliest inspirations? Like, what made you want to start performing?
Ooh, what made me want to start performing? I think that's a multifaceted question, but the first thing is really my family. My sister was a singer of the family, was always, singing in church or karaoke. We always sang a lot. We're Brazilian, very like gregarious, musical, rhythmic, right? I think. And so I was just exposed to a lot of different music growing up, a lot of different sounds and rhythms. And so I'm grateful to my mom just like putting on a playlist on Sundays while we clean the house. And it was anything from Gloria Stefan to Pavarotti to, she would play Brazilian MPB, which is Música Popular Brasileira, which is like, the greats of Brazil. To like I listened to a lot of like Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young, like in high school and college. My dad loved that era of music, the 70s. And um so I think I was influenced by that Mod Podge of sound. Yeah.
For sure. I think, yeah, it sounds like you grew up not only surrounded by music, but by so much culture that you had this like variety of different sounds and music that you could kind of dive into and take from. So that must have definitely influenced your interest in it and your kind of immersing yourself in it. And so in that case, you were always surrounded by it. And how did you get your start in actually being the one then singing and performing or writing?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I was lucky enough to go to arts schools my whole life. My mom really wanted me to be busy with things that were good to stay busy with, and not distractions like boys or like she was very big on being busy, and art was the thing that kept me busy. So, elementary, middle, and high school, the arts I went to in South Florida, and I started on violin. That was my first instrument. That's when I learned how to read music. So I think a lot of the stuff that I write, I still like hear violin playing. I still kind of like the melodies that I create kind of have that in them. And then so I kind of made my way into the theater from there. Like I explored dance also. I was lucky enough to get to try a bunch of majors and including visual art and multimedia, like a bunch of stuff like that. And then found my way into the theater, went to school for theater, got a Bachelor of Fine Arts in musical theater. Uh, my teachers were like, you could really do this. You should trust that you have the chops to go do this professionally. So I begged my parents who were like, don't you want to go into psychology? Don't you want to like use your good grades to, to do something else? But they were ultimately really supportive because they saw it too. They saw how much it meant to me and how much joy it brought to them to see me doing my things. I think ultimately they were satisfied to let me pursue the magic.
That's
So
incredible because, yeah,
yeah,
I think having that support really makes or breaks anyone's path, especially early on. And just
totally.
to hear that they were not only supportive, but kind of they instilled that artistic nature in you from an early age because you were always surrounded by it. So you had
Yeah,
the support of your family, you had the support of teachers, and it seemed like you really got to kind of craft yourself into someone who can do a bunch of things. I mean, talking about you playing the violin and learning to read music and then dancing and, of course, singing. And so you really got to just fully immerse yourself and explore, which I think is a beautiful thing. Because it seems like you really connected with it on like a much deeper level.
absolutely. I guess I just always saw it as like a way of expression, like any kind of art form, any kind of and I was very lucky because, not I was also the youngest kid of 3. So I think my brother and my sister had a harder time expressing, but by the time I came along, my parents were like, "Yeah, do your thing. Be a weirdo. We love it." And I'm grateful also to musical theater, which I think, like working professionally in musical theater, you're asked to stretch in all these different directions. On the On Your Feet tour, I was swinging, and that's how I got to play Gloria Estefan, is because I was swinging all these parts and covering Gloria. So it was quite an adventure that I had not really been prepared for in my schooling, but that luckily, because I come from this world of like, oh yeah, whatever tells a story is what you have to do, right? So I think I was lucky enough to have that in the back of my mind.
Completely. And it sounds like, especially taking on the roles of like a swing, seems so it is such a big adventure and journey, and also sounds so exhausting, but I feel like it really puts you through the trenches to
Yes,
prepare you to tackle anything. Like it always feels like it's a workshop for yourself to train for the next thing. And
absolutely.
clearly it's paying off. So tell me a little bit about that experience and On Your Feet, and what that was like taking on different roles, but especially Gloria Stefan.
Yeah, oh my goodness. It was, the place where I made some of the best friends I've made in New York City. And also just getting to travel all over the country with a group of people, to be together that long, to tell the same story for that long. You really become family. You really lean on each other. You get on each other's nerves. It's really family. So, um I'm just so grateful to all the ways that that show stretched me. I think, I had this idea. I fell in love with musical theater because of Sondheim, and, going into this more classical world, or this more, like, golden age of musical theater. I love, Judy Garland, Barbra Streisand. So you have this idea of the kinds of roles you're gonna play, and then when something comes along, like On Your Feet, you have the chops for this. Like, am I ready to sing pop music? Like, I didn't train for this. Um, so I think I relied really heavily on everybody around me, and also, like, growing up in South Florida was something I had in my back pocket, which I understood the show so well. I understood their journey. I followed them, as a kid, and, um so, yeah, you never know what you're capable of until you're put in that situation, I think. But that show taught me resilience, and it also taught me the power of, like, an 8-show week, pacing yourself for an 8-show week, because it was a doozy. We were dancing a lot and singing a lot, so
Completely. You know, you talking about some of the also the highlights of that, of the community of that show and the connections you made. Then also, I guess, finding yourself more at what you're capable of, or realizing maybe you don't have your limit just yet. You're still finding out what that limit could be or could not be, which sounds incredible. And so it seems like some of the highs were those connections and that exploration. What were other highs, do you think, of that experience of being on tour? And what were maybe some of the toughest parts or challenges?
my gosh, I'd say one of the toughest parts was being far from home, or far from, like, your routine. And of course, your tour routine becomes the thing that you grab onto for comfort. Like, you get to a city, you unpack, you go get your groceries. There, that routine still exists, but it's just takes a toll on the body, week after week, month after month, to have to, on your one day off, schlep all your stuff, get on a plane or a bus or whatever, travel to the next destination, and then really only have that night to rest. I think it's still a big, crazy part of tour, and it builds a lot of resilience, but it's also a little problematic. I think that the one of the best things that happened to me from that tour was getting to play with the Miami Sound Machine. The musicians on our tour were original members of the Miami Sound Machine. Teddy Millette, Jorge, rest in peace. Just those guys, watching them play every night, watching them light up like it was the first time they'd ever, and Clay, of course, Clay, I can't forget to mention Clay. Watching them play the songs that they helped create, every night like it was the first time, just so much joy, and I learned so much as a musician watching them. And just being around them, being observing and listening deeply to their tone and their quality together. The musicianship was insane. So I'd say that was the best part. Getting to be on the bandstand, just like grooving in a little salsa step, singing my little harmony and having these greats, play this music that's spreading so much joy to the house every night was peak performer dreams. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I can imagine growing up in Florida and always being surrounded by music. A lot of those songs were songs you grew up listening to, or at least hearing around
Yes.
you. So what was that like? Someone once told me, to believe you deserve to walk into the room where everyone else is and believe you belong around the people you admire. And I'm hoping that you felt that at the end of it because clearly you have the talent, you have the chops, you were embraced, you took it on, and you knocked it out of the park. So did you walk away feeling less like, oh, these are these greats, and I don't know if I can do this, but rather feeling like I'm part of this now, like I'm part of this like tapestry of artists, and in this kind of like a club, but it's more like a family. And
Sure,
yeah,
and uh, I agree with you that it can be so intimidating, like they they have so many Grammys, they've created this huge body of work, like, and at the end of the day, I think that being a part of the show allowed me to see the humanity of these two greats. They're like our king and queen of Latin pop in the United States, but also like they people. She's just a songwriter, She's just a girl who wanted to sing her songs and be heard and feel seen for who she really was. So I think ultimately at the end of the day, I'm so grateful that they are gracious enough also as a family like Emily. I've worked with them since on another project. And grateful to just be in the room watching their process because as artists, they're also so generous. So I think when you're in a room like that, it's lucky when you get to be in a room where you're like, "Yes, I get to be a part of this. I get to add my 2 cents and my artistry." But that's only happens, I think, when the leadership of the room is like, "What do you think?" And that's kinda rare, I think, in our industry. It's not sometimes we're kind of like the beautiful chessboard or where we become these pieces and then we're just we're the vessels, and then sometimes I think there's like a little bit of a creative spark that each of us brings regardless of whether any input is given or not creatively. But I think I think that's why that room felt so special is because each of our individual sparks was really welcomed and celebrated.
yeah, and I think you're right that that's rare in this industry where people are so collaborative and open to input and wanting to use everyone's unique talents in different ways. It's a very special thing because I feel like it creates the most beautiful end products at the end of the day. And it doesn't happen all the time. I know you used the word lucky at one point, but it's funny. I just heard a quote that said, "Luck is just opportunity meeting preparation,"
Preparation. Yep.
which I
I
thought
love
was
that
great.
precept. Yeah.
And it shows. Like, I mean, clearly you were preparing your whole life, and then an opportunity came, and it's a blessing that the people you were working with were so open to that and are working with everyone's unique talents and creating such a beautiful experience. And like you said, that's rare. So I'm curious now also about your journey in starting to perform and maybe what obstacles you faced and the struggles, whether it was the logistics of rejections or even just the inner stuff of doubting or being insecure and how you would overcome that.
Sure. Oh gosh, yeah. Um, I think that starting out, no one really tells you that you're gonna fail a lot before you win, you're gonna hear a lot of no's before you hear yeses. I think we hear that a lot. in school or in life from mentors and things. We got a lot of advice like, if you can see yourself doing anything else in the world, do that, you know? But I think what we hear less of is like, you're gonna you're gonna doubt this. It's gonna feel crushing at times. It's gonna feel like nobody gets it, nobody knows what I'm doing. Am I a fraud? You're gonna feel all those feelings. I wish someone had told me I wish someone had told me more of that, because I think that it's so easy to say, "Okay, well, I need to be in this box," right? Like, or feel like you're getting put in a box and say like, "Okay, well, that's my story." Um, I'll share an example, especially even with this show. I'm Brazilian, which means I'm Latin, but I'm not Hispanic. But growing up in South Florida, I knew Spanish. I grew up speaking Spanish with all my friends. And so here, especially through the lens of an American audience, right? You're like, okay, yeah, Latin. Everyone speaks Spanish. But there's this huge country in South America where I'm from where we speak Portuguese. And for some reason those two things, can't always go together in people's minds, or there's a certain narrative that we have to spin about um who we are to feel like we fit in as a part of the narrative. Um And whether that comes from the outside or from the inside, I think it's a mixture of both. Um, but for me, it was knowing that what I was doing, it was my own, and that it was enough, and that the long game of having a career that you feel proud of has to do, I think, with trusting yourself and trusting the choices that you're making, saying yes to what actually feels right and less to, "Oh, well, I think this would be a good opportunity," or maybe I don't feel so sure about this, but okay, maybe. It's knowing, no, this is who I am right now, and that might change next week or next month. Like, hopefully it will. Hopefully you'll evolve past this point, but I know certainly, like, we all contain so many multitudes. It's impossible to try to um just be one thing all the time. You know? And it's really limiting. So I'd say that's the hardest. Can you repeat the question one more time? I think I can tie it all together.
No, yeah, basically, what's been the hardest challenge in that experience? And I think you hit it on
Yeah.
the head. I mean, it's
Yeah.
funny because it balances out the experience of community, whether it's with other artists and performers, and also culturally, but also then you have this other part of the journey that's very solitary and very much just about you and your journey and discovering yourself and discovering who you can be in a lot of ways. Maybe even activating parts of
Yeah.
yourself you didn't know were there, but were there the whole time. So, how does that feel to kind of balance the two? Because that can get rough sometimes and very lonely.
Absolutely. And I think it's so we're so prone to it, especially in this era, this like digital era where it's like, okay, give us, 3 words to describe yourself. That's it. That's all you get. Or a picture, a snapshot, right, in time. And that's the riveting part, is finding community and finding that tribe, finding those people that see you for who you are and who see all your strengths and celebrate the differences and celebrate those idiosyncrasies, those differences that make that fabric stronger. Um, Instead of saying, yeah, like all our stories are the same, you know? I think about that's been the beautiful thing about finding community here in New York, is that all of our stories are so vast and so varied. And although I think some of that is not yet represented on stage on Broadway and in certain stages around the country, I think it's getting closer. I think we're getting closer and closer. The realer we can be about our truth and our stories, then the more and more we're able to be accepted for exactly that, you know.
Yeah, agreed. I think we are getting closer, and I think a lot of it has to do with those that do make it to a certain position where they're able to create these shows or songs or whatever it may be, then deciding, you know what, I'm gonna focus on my culture or I'm going to embrace all these cultures and bring them in more, and I'm going to create something from that, and I'm going to leave the door open for the next person. And I think that's what I'm witnessing has been the most beautiful thing when I see more representation on stage and different stories being told. It's always someone getting that opportunity and then using it to give so many new opportunities and new stories. Like instead of repeating old shows that we've seen a million times, which are fantastic and we love,
Yes.
but new
We
stories
love.
also because there's so many more out there, especially in New York. Which
Absolutely.
brings me to another show that you starred in, which was In the Heights. So what was that experience like?
Yes.
Because that's one of my favorite shows and movies, and you played Vanessa, which is an incredible character. So how much fun
Yes.
was that?
It was incredible. It was a production at the Dallas Theater Center. Ricky Tripp was our choreographer, James Vasquez was our director, and we I love that show. It's so iconic. I live in Washington Heights. It's iconic for so many reasons. That show kind of like shifted. It's a big part of my story as well because one of the first times that I ever said to myself, like, oh, maybe I could actually do this as a career was when I saw my buddy Natalie Caruncho swinging on for Nina on the national tour. So she was on the national tour of In the Heights when I was still in high school. And Natalie Caruncho was actually the associate on Your Feet, and she taught me all of my choreography. So it was a very full circle moment. She was a childhood friend of mine, and then from Miami, and then became my teacher, like this person I looked up to and saw myself, being able to have that career because of her. So I think it's so important what you were saying about opening the door. You have no idea what the impact that you have as an artist, just doing your thing, just living your little life. How the impact and the repercussions of what that might mean for somebody else, somebody who's looking up and saying, "Ooh, I think I can do that." The visibility of that. Um, but I think that In the Heights is this show that keeps reverberating. Like, it's had such an impact, and then with the movie, it's had such a different impact, and now it's like we're seeing more and more waves, this ripple effect of inspiration, um, for our generation, and I think and I hope generations to come, because it's a story that celebrates, like you're saying, those characters, those, like, original. These characters are people we know. They're so familiar, they're so funny. It's a story with so much heart and so much, truth, familiarity, um, that every time I've done it twice now. I've also played Nina. That was my very first production of it at a summer stock or not a summer stock, I guess it was one of the first regional, productions of it in Pittsburgh when I was still in college during the summer. Um But I think this time playing it in Dallas, getting to play Vanessa and feeling this new personification of who I was becoming also, like, more of a woman, more of a, just a different facet of womanhood, and exploring different problems, not so much like, what are my parents gonna think, but now more like, "Okay, I was in that phase of my life too, like, okay, I need to get stuff done, like, we gotta go. I'm in charge now." So it felt really interesting to take on that kind of role with this newfound uh, like strength that I had in my abilities. It was great. It was a beautiful production. I miss it a lot. I still keep in touch with. We still have a group chat, though. We still wish happy birthdays,
Oh,
and I feel like that show does that to people.
yeah, and it seems like the best experiences in theater creates that kind of family dynamic, which is beautiful. And it's funny how you talk about each character kind of representing where you were in life at the time. Because I find that whether it's in theater or books or movies or shows, a lot of characters that we relate to in that level kind of become our comfort characters. And so I'm curious if
Mm,
if growing up, if you had specific comfort characters that really helped inspire you and made you want to continue going when things got tough.
yeah, I'm gonna cry. Um, yes, one of my comfort characters were Georges Seurat and Dot in Sunday in the Park with George, and That's the show I just got done doing. Um, I every time it's like that character that you revisit, that soundtrack that you revisit every season of life, right? Every when you're like, "Oh, I really need to listen to that song again." It's usually because and that's the power of art, right? We're usually trying to process something or we're trying to figure something out or something doesn't feel right and we need that magic. Um And I think for me, it was always Sunday in the Park with George. My mom, who's hilarious, was just mentioning to me, like, "Oh, I'm so grateful I got to see you in this show because when you were 14 singing about this George, I was always like, who is this George that this little girl is always singing about?" Yeah, for me, it was always that obsession with the craft, balancing that with like, loneliness, the immense loneliness that you're bound to feel when you're dedicating so much, when your true love is your art form, and what happens to the people around you that also need love and that also need a, relationship. So that was always a huge theme for me growing up, and I think being away from a lot of my family in Brazil kind of helped me to see the intergenerational story also in that play, like the breaking of curses that happens from one act one to act two. Yeah, those characters were always my comfort characters. I still go back to that music and sing it all the time because it's just the best.
I think it's so beautiful how a story and characters can really affect and influence you so deeply on this level. And I think it's even more beautiful that now you got to be part of that production. That feels
Oh
like a
my
full
gosh.
circle moment in a way that kind of just made you feel maybe that it was destined to happen. Like just everything fell into place, it seemed.
It was pretty mind blowing. I also when Sondheim died, okay, so huge nerd alert. When Sondheim passed away, I got a made to fade tattoo of the hat
Oh my God. That's
of
incredible.
Bernadette Peters' hat, based on an image that I pulled from a picture of the original production. And because this show has had such a huge impact on my life and like my ability to keep making work even if nobody gets it, right? Keep doing stuff that makes me feel good even if it's not the right thing in a lot of people's eyes, right? Um and so I got this done when he passed away and I told myself I'm right at the right age. Hopefully, this role will come along before it fades. So I think I just, it was a happy accident. It was a wish, but it was also like you were saying, like all the pieces kind of came together. The director is a beautiful friend of mine, Ethan Hurd, who I'd worked with before. So all the pieces coalesced, and I think it was just right place, right time. I'm really grateful it happened. I'm like, it's also one of those things that once it happens, full circle, you're like, okay, well, what do I do now? I think I have to dream all new dreams.
Yeah.
How does this
Dream
work?
bigger now. I mean, that's
Dream
incredible
bigger.
because it really did seem like you manifested it. And
Yeah,
it's
it
funny
feels
you
like
mentioned
it.
the tattoo because years ago, a little bit after the In the Heights movie came out, I had gotten this tattoo, Suenito, from one of the actors in the movie. They did it in their handwriting. And I knew I wanted it for me to mean holding on to a dream and going after it. I wasn't sure at the time what that would be. And I think I'm still exploring that. But I think even doing this, having these conversations is part of that. And so, yeah, it is a beautiful, like, full circle moment where then you're like, well, did I limit myself? Did I not dream big enough? Like, what is there more out there? And so, yeah, it's a weird feeling.
Yeah, it's been wild though to be like, okay, talking to my little self and saying like, okay, we did this. Good job. Like I had moments where I was like, oh yeah, I have to congratulate her. I have to say like, you did it, kid. You did your thing that you were so excited to do. And now what? You can't discount that. You have to celebrate it, but also we get to dream again. This is scary. It's a scary place because you can also get so distracted by all the other stuff, right? That's the other temptation I think for me as
Completely.
an artist and a collaborator is like you have all of this information coming at you at once. We're living in the greatest city in the world. Um and we have all this stuff to process, but how do you stay how do you stay excited and about that pursuit of magic, right?
Yeah.
About that, let's go find it. Let's find the thing that excites us.
Which can
Yeah.
definitely be hard in the low moments. I think when you're hitting those low moments, or you're not hearing back from people, or you're facing a rejection, or maybe it's things are fine, but you're coming down from a big high and a great experience, so then you're like, well,
Yes.
what now? Like, what's next? That's hard to keep that rolling. And I know for me, I find finding ways to keep dreaming and imagine something new uh, is partially what keeps me going. So I'm very curious, because you've played so many iconic roles already and fulfilled one dream. What would another dream role be for you?
Dream role for me, I have a couple of dream roles that I still want to play. I think Louise in Gypsy has always been a huge role for me. I think also The Baker's Wife and Into the Woods. Um, I think also this one's a little later, but Desiree in A Little Night Music. Um, there's so many, but I feel like a lot of them are older, which is so funny. Like, um, I'm excited to age into my like awesome old lady character actress, like Abuela. I'd love to play Abuela one day. I'm really excited. Um, and I got a taste of that in Sunny in the Park, getting to play Marie in Act Two. I was like, oh, I'm hooked.
You're there.
I'm a clown. I want to do this for the rest of forever.
I mean, I
So
think
yeah,
everything you're doing now is preparing you for those roles as you get older, which is great,
absolutely.
because they're definitely not out of the realm of possibility. You're definitely
Right.
going to do them, and then it's just a matter of like time. So it's funny that everything
Amen.
you're doing
Amen.
now is preparing you for those other dream roles.
From your mouth to God's ears, Matthew. Thank you so much.
And then, we talk a lot about your performing, your singing, your acting. And so I'm curious about your songwriting and what your process is. And, are you someone who thinks up music first and then writes lyrics, or vice versa? And what do you think are your biggest inspirations when you're writing?
Ooh, gosh, I think for me it's the poetry, like whatever the little like morsel of truth is. And it's usually starts with words for me. Like I write poems and then I'll if there's a melody there, I'll kind of if it's coming to my head, I'll start playing with it. Um I think also it's great that I'm not a great instrumentalist on a lot of things. I play enough to accompany myself, guitar and a little piano, and I use my resources, but I don't know enough to start with melody, so I'll just start like fingering little things here and there and see if that goes anywhere. And then when I'm working with another person like Jaime, we've written plenty of songs together actually. Um we'll just we'll send ideas back and forth. So sometimes he'll send me an entire song and I'm like, this is an incredible arrangement. Write a song to it, write all the lyrics. And sometimes I'll send him lyrics and he'll send me back something so beautiful. So it really depends, I think, on the collaborator. Sometimes it's an improv, sometimes um, it starts with a little improvised idea and off you go. You keep building more and more layers to it, adding layers to the canvas.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting that you mention starting kind of with poetry, because I think that's the beautiful segue into songwriting. And some of the best songs come off like poems. And then you mentioned also getting these music tracks from Jaime and then writing to it. And so that must be a much different experience. And how did you start working with Jaime and getting involved with songwriting for him?
Yeah, with Jaime, so I was playing in a band, also the Heartstrings Project. We have some music out on all the streaming services. I don't play much with them anymore, but they're still making a lot of great music. Um, and Jaime had heard some of that, and I think he knew I was trying to get more into theater writing. Um, and we just decided to pair up. He asked me, "Hey, do you want to write some lyrics for this off-Broadway show I'm writing with a bunch of female lyricists?" I was like, "Yeah, let's go for it." I had no idea what I was doing. Little did he know, really. I was kind of or maybe he did know and he just trusted that it would be okay. And luckily, yeah, we've written some really cool stuff together over the years. That was just a happenstance situation where I think we knew someone in common. And Jaime, just to loop back to something that you said, he's like the great connector of all the Latin people in New York City. Like he is one of those people that leaves the door wide open and pulls not only that, but pulls up a chair at the table for you to sit at. He's one of those people that really believes in the power of like trust your own artistry. I trust you. Come bring whatever it is that you bring. Um, and so I really admire that about him. Um, and so yeah, our journey together started kind of, you know, on a whim with a little let's try it out, let's see. And the first song we wrote together I think was Mountain in the Sky, which is a song we sing quite a bit together.
That's so beautiful. And yeah, you're right about Jaime being this connector and someone who gives opportunities. I think about this podcast itself, which started a little bit differently, and I was working with someone, and we had filmed a few episodes. They got a little busy, they couldn't continue, and so I had the choice to just not do it or start off on my own, like restart it, which was tough because I wasn't a name. I'm not an actor. Don't have the pull. And I didn't know where to start, how to start, why people would say yes. And it was Jaime who first said yes and gave me the opportunity. And I'm also grateful to you and every other guest I've had. But it goes to show that all it takes is that to kind of get the ball rolling and see what you're capable of. And so I'm curious, after you got into the swing of things, now you've been writing with him for a while. What is the experience like now with just your confidence and comfortability with kind of flexing those muscles of yours?
Honestly, it's so funny that you say that because you'd think it would get easier. And I think the actual like sitting down to write part is the part that's easier. Like, okay, I have to get this done. It's not like the inspiration, the muse doesn't always come at the right time, right? It's like, it's the work. You got to do the work. Um, and think that's all it is saying yes. Like you're saying, it's just that initial yes, let's do it. Let's go for it. And then we know it has to get done somehow. Doesn't matter how it happens, just has to get done. And we're both a little busier now, which is good. I think it's good for both of us. But they say, and Jaime has an incredible um, son, Alonso, and I think they say that kids sometimes, when you have kids, and I congratulations to you and your wife, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes, they say that it pushes you. You're like, your parameters. You establish boundaries a little faster because you're like, I have 2 hours. Okay, great. I have 2 hours. Let me write. There's none of that funny, like, middle of the way artistry kind of, oh, I have all day. What am I going to do? You just have 2 hours and that's all you do. So I think that that's kind of rubbed off on me. I don't have any kids yet, but just to know, like, okay, it has to get done. This is the deadline. I think setting deadlines is helpful for us. And I want to write more with Jaime. I feel like every chapter, every volume of music he puts out, all the arrangements change so much. And I admire him as an artist because he changes and he's not afraid um to voice that.
Yeah, I think that's true. And it's so funny you mentioned that change when having kids because I've noticed it already, and it's only been a couple of weeks. And I'm like, all right, this is my window. I said, yeah, I could rest or do something else. Like, no, I have to get this done. So let me go do that. But I've also noticed you said the power of yes, and I think
Yes.
I've noticed that for a while with myself, where I'll hesitate, whether it's fear, insecurity, whatever it may be, and then I'm like, Matt, no, reach out and just send a message because once it's done, it's done. You can't undo it. So now you have to follow through. And that's been a way to push myself to just get things done and follow through on behalf of myself, and I'll thank myself later. But I think that initial saying yes and just going ahead and doing something, that first step is the hardest part sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think especially in a field where you have to be your own creative motor, it can be so hard to keep yourself going. But I think the more collaborators you get on board, it's almost like you begin to stimulate each other in a way that um it's like a self-sustaining organism, right? It's like a problem halved is a problem shared, right? Like you feed each other. The energy of that collaboration feeds itself. So very grateful to good collaborators. It's a blessing to have people like that in your life.
Yeah, and I think it definitely shows whether it's in the music that you create with Jaime or even on stage at the concert at Sony Music Hall. And that collaboration ends up definitely not only creating something magical, but it's kind of perfect the fact that Jaime calls it a family because you step into that room and you feel it. There's just this atmosphere there that everyone's there for the same reason. There's a spirit of love and embracing of each other there, and a celebration of everyone's different stories, whether it's exciting, happy stories or missing home, missing people. There's all these different feelings that exist in that room. And I think always ending the concert with Familia is just the cherry on top. It kind of sums it all up. And so that's definitely a way that I think that you also end up inspiring others through your songwriting. And so I'm curious because you've talked a lot about all of your inspirations and things that have given you hope and where you find magic in the world. So where do you hope that you can create magic and inspiration for others? And in what
Yeah.
way, maybe?
Yeah. It's a beautiful question. I'm trying to zoom out a little bit. I've been trying to do a better job of looking at the ways in which our work is really important because it can seem so frivolous when there's so much crazy stuff going on in the world at large. Every day, uh, I think teaching is a thing I'm really grateful for. That's always been a part of my journey. I'm a teaching artist with this beautiful theater company called the CoLab Theater Company for people, actors with developmental disabilities. And I became involved with them doing How to Dance in Ohio on Broadway. They did all of our workshops for sharing the stage. Um, and it was an organization that I just felt so happy being a part of. I just felt so happy going to work every day. Um, that I'm continuing, and again, it's that ripple effect. You see like, "Oh, yeah. Okay, this is great. We're expanding together. We're evolving. We're growing." And I think any environment where you feel that is a good place to be, is a good place to start. Um, I think also songwriting. I'm putting out some music on my own. I know we didn't talk about this yet, but I'm putting out my first single on my own, which is big and scary,
Exciting, though. Very exciting.
exciting. And it's a single called Rabbit Hole, and it's actually about a big transition time in my life. About uh, feeling that fear when we're on the precipice of something, when we're staring down the barrel, and we're like, "Oh wow, my life's about to turn upside down. I have to make this choice to turn everything upside down." Um, and sometimes when you know, we're afraid to take that leap. So I think the song is about letting things be upside down for a while and seeing that naturally they get straightened out with each little choice and each day. Um, I'm really proud of it. I'm really excited to be putting music out on my own for the first time because I think it's also in huge part thanks to all the people I've collaborated with that I'm able to feel strong enough to say like, oh yeah, I could do this. Um, all the songs I've written with people and all the work I've started working on a musical called Exist as well, music and lyrics about uh, five undocumented immigrants from all over the world who are resisting deportation in the basement of a church. Um, and so that's been a big challenge too, writing music and lyrics for a theatrical show. So they're all like in these different buckets, and I'm so happy that they're challenging me all in such different ways. um, because it's all for the same. It's all going to the same. Their means to the same end. They're all going into the same bucket, which is me uh, having the capacity for compassion, having a better understanding of who I am and how I can help, having a better understanding in like what makes up this fabric that we're all a part of, and my strengths, all the ways in which I can help. So, yeah, I'd say that that's recently what's been going on in my head, and how I'm surrounding myself with work that challenges me in that way is a big part of it.
Beautiful. And it sounds also like it's symbiotic, in which you're hoping to inspire in those areas, but you're also getting inspired back, which is just a beautiful
Yeah.
cycle right there. And you mentioned the musical you're working on exists. I think I saw a workshop version of it. Mayela Barrera was in it,
Yeah.
correct?
Oh my god, yes,
Yes.
you
So I
saw it. Oh my
beautiful show, incredible.
thank you. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
So
that's
I'm
so
excited to see
beautiful. It
where
was
this
like a
goes.
cou
Like
just a couple of
I think about
performances.
it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you
Beautiful,
so
beautiful
much. Yeah,
show.
Mahela was amazing in the show. They had no time at all to learn. It was only one act that we presented at Columbia. And yeah, we're hoping to be able to work more on it this year with hopefully some residencies and have some real time to sit down and work on it, because that production went up when I was in How to Dance in Ohio. So there was very little that we could like change during the process. So I'm hoping that we get another go around with a full show this time, hopefully.
Yes, cross my fingers.
Yeah. Yeah,
That story
thank you.
deserves to be told. Yeah, because just that one act was immensely powerful, and I can just imagine what a full
I
show
think
looks
so.
like.
Yeah, thank you.
And then you mentioned your music that you're working on. So do you have an idea of when that may be coming out? What could we look forward to?
Ooh, you know, uh, it was supposed to be out like next month. It's not going to happen. It's unfortunately there are too many variables up in the air. Because I still have to get some beautiful cello and violin on the track. But hopefully by the end of the year. That was my goal at the beginning of the year. Hopefully by December it'll be out and ready for your ears. Oh, I'm sorry. I think you're muted, Matthew. Or maybe my
Oh
thing
yeah, I
just
was
hadn't caught
muted.
up. Yeah.
Okay, and where can we find it once it's released?
So sorry. You can find it on Spotify. It'll be on Bandcamp. It'll be anywhere you stream your music. Um, and it'll be I think under my name, Marina Pires, unless I decide to go with like an artist name, a stage name, a very
Just a one
avant-garde,
name, yeah.
just one name, Marina. No, there's already
Yeah, I
Marina
was
and the
gonna say,
Diamonds.
yeah.
We gotta
Who
workshop
now
it,
only goes
Matthew.
by Marina, I think. So
Exactly.
uh,
It's all right. It's all fun. I think it's all drag, It's like so exciting to be able to also create in that vein, because I'm such a theatrical uh lover that it's fun to be able to create a persona. So we'll see. I think that's honestly what's holding up the release more than the song being ready. The song is pretty much ready, but it's just the idea that, oh wait, this could be a little more exciting if
yeah.
I put a little more thought into it. So
Well, I'm
look
excited to
out for
hear
that.
the final result and see what that looks like.
Thanks.
And
Me
I'm
too.
curious what else that you have coming up next in terms of performing or what you may be working on that you're allowed to talk about.
Yes. Yes. Okay, I will. I have one thing I'm not allowed to talk about, but we'll all see it in theaters, and it's just a little tiny thing anyway. It'll be super fun. And then I have something I'm working on right now is Blood Wedding by Federico Garcia Lorca. I'm working on my a reading of it, a staged reading of it here in New York City at New Perspectives Theater, with a collaborator, Matias de la Flor. Um, we are staging it with music. I'm working on the music for it along with Nico Raymont, who's also a lovely NYU grad musician, theater maker. Um, and yeah, we're putting it on one night only on the 14th. That's going to be really exciting.
Wow.
We're trying to add this like modern sort of take on such a classic Spanish work. I think that Federico Garcia Lorca's work doesn't often get produced. Like, I think the last time his stuff was done in New York was in the 20s,
Wow.
which is crazy to me, that we have this much poetry and like beauty in by like a bilingual story. So we're really excited about that. We have our cast. There are a lot of Broadway people we know and love are going to be in that. That's on the 14th at New Perspectives. And then we also have I have a one-woman show that I'm working on called Between Two Trees. It's my very first attempt at writing a one-woman show and uniting all the powers, like my songwriting and some poetry and some physical comedy. Um, and it's all about, uh, you know, growing up where and trying to find home, trying to find some semblance of home and make it all make sense.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. So, when and where? And I'll add
So,
links and everything. But yeah, when and where
no
is this going to
worries.
happen?
I'm working on it for hopefully for Edinburgh 2026. We're fingers crossed. Um, and if not, it'll happen in the city first, probably at New Perspectives or up here at the United Palace in Washington Heights. So one of those
Wow,
places.
that's incredibly exciting, and I can also imagine very vulnerable. But I think the
Very
fact that you're
scary.
diving in is incredible. Like that's an amazing thing to just kind of embrace that.
I've been trying to embrace it ever since Sunday closed. I've been like, oh hey, I gotta the truth is where it's at. We gotta tell the uncomfortable truths and also I think there's so much power in comedy. There's so much power in the way that we process emotion through comedy, and that's something that's always been a huge part of my life and my family story. So I think I'm excited for it to be a part of my story going forward. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. It seems like another major part of your journey and where you're headed next. So I'm excited for you. I can't wait
Hope
to
so.
to hear more,
Thank you,
and I will
Matthew.
put links to everything and where to follow you. Can you tell everyone where they can find you online?
Thank you. Yes, my website is marinapires.com, or you can find me on Instagram. I post a lot on Instagram. It's Marina M. Pires.
Thank you, Marina. Well, it has
Thank
been
you.
an absolute pleasure having you. I hope to have you
Thank
again
you, Matthew.
once you complete some of these shows and have more free time again. But you were a joy to have on. I love hearing about your journey and your inspirations in life. I think this is really what the magic is, these connections and discovering that we're not actually as alone as we feel sometimes. So thank you for being on. It's been an absolute honor, and I can't wait to talk again.
Thank you, Matthew. I'm so honored that I got to be here and chat with you and learn more about your journey too. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And everyone out there, keep doing magic. Bye.